Alright, welcome back to our Excel video series. In this particular video series we're going to be looking at Chapter 5. It covers Module 6 in our coursework. It's going to encompass subtotaling. We're going to look at pivot tables and also pivot charts. So for the objectives for this particular chapter, we're going to be looking at pages 328 through 394 in the text. We're going to be covering subtotals and outlines. It's going to include subtotal data, which is going to be an extension of what we worked on last week in class, as well as the video series. We're going to look at pivot table basics, options within pivot tables, and then we're going to look at data modeling and pivot charts. So to get started, last week we looked at subtotaling within an Excel table, and as we talked about that in class, that was specific to the structure of the table. But what we're going to look at today is subtotaling data in an actual worksheet. So basically, when you have data that's categorized, you have the ability to use the subtotal command to display the totals for columns categorized by that data. I've included a listing of steps for creating subtotals to a particular data set. Go ahead and read through those steps, but the one thing I want to point out, actually there's 2 points I want to point out, and that's the first 2 bullets here. It's important that your data is sorted into the groups that you want to subtotal. That is going to impact your accuracy in your subtotaling. And you also need to, again, make sure that if your data set currently exists as an Excel table, you need to convert it back to your data set back to a range. So again, review those steps. We'll actually go through these here in a moment with our examples. In addition to the subtotals that we've actually gone over in class, you can create a second level of subtotals. And again, it just adds another categorization, or it aggregates your existing subtotals into further categories while still preserving the primary subtotals that you've created. For adding a second level of subtotals, again, I've included, there's 5 steps here for that, and we'll go through that here in an example. One thing I also want to point out is that to remove the rows of the subtotals, you can go ahead and click the Remove All in the Subtotals dialog box. That will remove all of your subtotaling and get your data set back to its original form. And then we'll also go through kind of some of the how subtotaling creates kind of an outline, how you can kind of collapse and expand the information based on subtotals. So let's go ahead and get into our information here, and I've already got some data here. This is what we're familiar with, what we've used last week with regard to some of the sales data for real estate. So looking at and creating subtotal data, first thing you want to do is you want to be able to go ahead and first define what you're going to be sorting this data on, or how you want your data grouped. So in this particular instance, we're going to look at the real estate sales by city. And what I've already done here, and we'll go through the steps, is I'll go ahead and we want to go ahead and sort our information so we want to sort it by city here, and I've brought up our sort dialog box. We're going to sort by city, sort on the values, and alphabetically from A to Z. It's already sorted, but I want to go ahead and go through the steps for that. So now what we want to do is we want to be able to subtotal this data. Now what we could do is we could actually go in here and we could insert a line. We could start hammering in the function call for a subtotal, and then we could do that for every group of every city. But there is an easier way to go ahead and create subtotals when you have aggregate groups of lots of information. You click the subtotal box over here in the outline, grouping, you're going to be given a couple of pick lists. You're going to be given the ability to select criteria on what you're subtotaling, and then there's some other options here that we'll go through. So again, we're going to look at by city. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that at each change in city, so whatever you sort on, that's what you're going to select in this first pick list. Okay. Moving down to the next pick list, again, you have a wide variety of functions here that you can aggregate your information. And we're going to again go by sum because we're just going to want to aggregate total number of sales, as well as we're looking at the asking price. I want to include that in there so we can kind of get a visualization of how houses in these various cities are selling in relation to their asking price. I'm going to go ahead and leave the replace current subtotals and also the summary below data. I want to go ahead and leave those checked because again we're doing a first level and I want to see some summary data in here. So we click OK and we notice that our Excel spreadsheet goes ahead and inserts a subtotal line for the city of Alpine. Puts us an Alpine total in there, gives us the aggregate asking price, aggregate selling price. We go ahead and scroll down our page, we look at the next city, American Fork, totals are appearing there, Cedar Hills, and so on all the way down until you get to your grand total down there based off the selection criteria. That's what we went ahead and told the Excel spreadsheet we wanted to do. So again, this is just a quick and easy way of creating subtotal information in a data set without having to go in there and insert a blank line and putting in the calculations itself. So now we got a first level of subtotals in here. You can actually add a second level of subtotals in here. Again, to do that, you go back up here to your subtotal, and this time I want breakdown by city, but I also want to see how well my agents are doing within those cities. So I'm going to select selling agent. Again, I'm going to still use the sum function. We're going to be looking at the asking and the selling price again. However, if you're doing a second level subtotal, you need to uncheck the replace current subtotals. If you do not do that, it will then basically undo your first level subtotals or your current subtotals, and it will replace it with that. So again, make sure if you're doing a second level subtotal that you uncheck the replace current subtotals box. You click OK, and it's going to give a little bit more aggregation in terms of your data, and it looks a little noisy here based off the information, but again, this is just to show the concept. So again, we still have it sorted by city here, but we also have it by selling agent. So we can look at how each agent is doing in each city, especially if they have more than one sales in each city. So we have Minkus here who has 2 sales. So again, you can kind of gauge how well they're doing in it. And again, this is just for example, just to kind of show the level at which you can subtotal information. Again, if you want to go ahead and clear all your subtotals, you go back into the subtotal box, click remove all, and you get your information back to its original data set based on where you left off from your sort. One other thing I want to show in regards to, and I'm going to go ahead and apply my subtotal back in here, is how Excel creates what they call an outline in terms of how the information is aggregated and how you can kind of navigate that information. So if you look over here to the left side of your worksheet after you've applied your subtotals, you notice you'll see a series of icons over here. And this one has a minus sign. If you click on that minus sign, it actually kind of compresses or groups the individual information together, and it only gives you basically the subtotal line for the city of Alpine. So again, if you're wanting to look at it from strictly a subtotal breakdown without the detail, again, you can go ahead and you can click through and basically hide all the detailed information and only provide the subtotal information. Likewise, if you look up here at the top, you'll notice that there are 3 numbers here. If you click on the first number, that's going to essentially collapse all the subtotals. It's going to collapse all the individual information, and it's just going to give you that grand total that we ask for it to provide to us. So again, if you just kind of want to clear the noise, that's one way to go ahead and do that. If you click on the number 2, that's going to give you the subtotal breakout with the grand total. So again, if you're looking for more of a detailed summary, where you get the city totals and the grand total, you can click on the number 2 icon, and then if you click on the 3, the outline icon for number 3, click on that. That brings it back to all of the outline information. It displays the entire list of information.